Start your coffee machines up, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax. Let's take a deep dive and a look into the evolution of digital slot car racing, the era of digital precision, the early days of overtaking. The year is 2004, and the slot car landscape changes forever. Yes, it's the release of the digital systems, the era of digital. Ever since the 1950s, and even before then, technically, if you want to count slot cars as being born just after the 1900s, really. But the analog systems that were there from the 50s, 60s, the golden era, up towards the 2000s were all analog based. We had little snippets of systems that allowed you to swap lanes. We had multiple cars on lanes in analog, but digital was where it was possible to switch lanes on a slot track system and drive multiple cars. This really did change racing forever because you could suddenly have lots of cars on a 2-lane track, which is perfect for home. Don't have to go to a big commercial slot car venue that has an 8-lane track. It's very unlikely that most people are going to be able to fit an 8-lane track in their house. So this really did change slot car racing forever. So what do we have in 2004? Well, Scalextric had the SSD, the Scalextric Sport digital system. SCX came out with their own digital track system, and Carrera released the Carrera Evolution X Pro system. Let's take a look into each of these systems. I've just got 2 retro videos to kick it off. So let's just kick back with some music. No original audio, unfortunately. I don't want to get any copyright strikes or anything like that. So let's have a little look at these 2 videos from Scalextric and Carrera to bring back some nostalgic memories. Here we go.
In my head, I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick, and I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick, and now I feel alive, feel alive, feel alive, feel alive, and now I feel alive.
So we've had a look at those 2 videos, very old school retro. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, first off, I want to go through something called Scalextric Sport World. Now, this was not a digital system. This was an analog system. But the reason why I'm featuring this within the digital slot car video is because of the features and how far ahead it was in terms of we don't really have a system even like that to this day. Now, Scalextric Sport World was an analog track system, but it allowed you to digitally connect to other people in the world. So you could be at home racing your car on a track against someone else across the internet. Now, it was doomed because the Scalextric digital system came out in 2004. This basically released at the same time. 2 different products that are both have digital elements that are kind of competing for a space. And unfortunately, Scalextric Sport World ceased to be a product and supported. The actual website was taken down a few years later. Unfortunately, it was not a success, but the idea was, for its day, was just, I can only imagine people just going crazy. And this was really too early for a system like this to come out. But if a system like this came out now, I think it would be very much appreciated. Okay, let's have a look at the digital systems from 2004. I'm going to go through the evolution of those brands up to the current day, and then some other options for digital systems that aren't included in the initial three manufacturers. First off, we're kicking it off with the Carrera, and it was the Carrera Evolution Pro-X. Now, when this came out, it was a big deal, but this system isn't as good as the Scalextric version. Okay, it's only more recently that Carrera have overtaken Scalextric. So the Evolution Pro-X was a system whereby you could overtake. So it was released in 2004. It lasted until 2007. The actual guide blades, we'll take a look in a second, are very unique. And it actually interacts with a magnet to give you better grip when you're going around corners and when you're going for an overtake and you switch lanes to get ahead of the other car, which is pretty cool, and it's something that they no longer have, but it's interesting to look at it retrospectively. So ghost car, there were ghost cars, but there was no specific lane changing on the actual system back then, and it was a 4-car maximum. Now there was fuel simulation and things like that, but it was a very basic digital experience back then. So if you were buying into this product back then, you were kind of testing the waters. It was, you would be an early adopter. It wasn't particularly a cheap thing to get into back then. The digital systems have, come down a lot since then. So with it being such a new thing, people weren't expecting it to last, and they were kind of holding on to that analog, because you forget that analog has been around since slot cars started, and suddenly this comes in, and all of a sudden, people are maybe apprehensive about going digital. They think it's a fad. They don't think it's going to potentially stay. So if you were buying into this system, you were an earlier adopter and you wanted that. Maybe it was someone that was focused on computers, digital, start of the 2000s, very much early infancy of the internet still. I mean, I can't think when we got the internet, but it probably before 2004, but not everyone had the internet, even back in 2004. So times were a lot different. Smartphones weren't out. Digital mobile phones were a thing, but I think maybe the first colour screen had come out, but certainly nothing like we have today. Okay, so we take a look at the guide blades on the Carrera X Pro. Now it's really interesting because they've got extra long guides, and it actually attaches to the magnet. Now, these particular cars don't have their magnets in, but where that rectangular cutout is in the middle of the car, that's where the magnet sits. Now, the magnet moves forwards and back on those rails. This aids track holding and the ability to carry speed and smoothly overtake. So these cars relied on that system to work. Obviously now they've developed the system to the point where they feel that this isn't a necessary addition. I can imagine if you look at definitely the blue car, the guide is quite far back, whereas we know the guide is better suited to being up towards the front of the car. So yeah, it's interesting to see the design. Now, the cars had a selectable controller chip, so you could actually select which controller was paired to which car, and that is changeable on the car. And you'll see the familiar IR sensor. So the IR sensors work, they're infrared sensors, just like a remote control on the TV. So they work in exactly the same way. And these pair up with a receiver on the track, and that tells the lane change whether it needs to switch. And the flipper would actuate and flip to one side, and then as the car goes through, it knocks a plastic bit in the flipper and it flips back. So Carrera have one actuator that flips it over, and then the car, as it goes through, causes it to go back. We'll have a look at Scalextric system. That's a little bit different. But yeah, that's the whole basis of the Carrera X Pro. Now, Carrera X Pro didn't last very long at all, but it was really the building blocks for what was to come. And we're going to have a look at that next. So here we go. So from 2009 or thereabouts, Carrera released, it was called the Digital Black Box, and this was the first iteration of their streamlined digital 132, Carrera Digital 132 and 124 system. So released in 2009, and this base was supplied until 2011. There were a few units that you could buy after that, but they very much kind of ceased to make it, and it was stock that was available to sell. It added some different features. We've got the lights across the top that would count down, it would sequence. You could do pairings with this base. You could set up all the different things like speed, brakes, fuel adjustment and things like that, but it wasn't perfect. And that's where the later system went on to refine it a bit more. So we've got Ghost Car, we've got the Safety Car that will come out as well. 6 cars now, so we're up. So we're able to run 6 cars on this newer system. And we've got the speed and brake adjustments, the fuel simulation, the weather, tyres, pace car. The next base that we've got is the latest base from Carrera. It's the 132, 124, 30, 352. Now this was released in 2011. It has the ability to run Ghost Car and Safety Cars. Ghost Cars have a random lane change feature compared to the older base that doesn't have that feature. On the older base, the black box, cars would just zigzag back and forth at each lane change. Now, the update with this power base was the fact that the ghost cars only change lanes about 50% of the time, which makes it more random and means that you've got to find space to overtake and try and get out from behind other cars. So it's more random, more obstacles on the track when you're racing. Now, this is a great feature. A lot of the other digital systems don't have this. Mainly Scalextric don't have that feature, but the previous power base from the ARC bases, they did, which just doesn't make any sense to me. But we'll get on to Scalextric when we look through what they offer. Now, there's speed and brake adjustments, and that has increased in terms of 10 different settings for the speed and brake adjustments, which is further enhanced through the Smart Race app on the slider. So you can select any brake adjustment that you want from numbers 0 to 100, which further increases the usability of the base, which is absolutely fantastic. Advanced fuel sim, so with the pit lane, you can do advanced fuel simulations, which is really, really good. And we've got weather, tyres, pace car, as well as the ghost car feature. And that is further enhanced through Smart Race, which is a race, kind of an RMS, race management system that is a Bluetooth connect through tablet, a bit like the Scalextric and the SCX. They're all kind of working towards that smartphone integration, tablet integration, which is great. You have still got external RMS software that you can connect to, mainly on Carrera. You've got PC Lap Counter. There are a few other ones as well that I forget the names of. I don't want to say and they're wrong, but you can go and have a look at those. Now, this power base had advanced features compared to the previous black box. The LED lights on this particular power base are more visual because they're over the top in an arc. This will count down. It also signifies different modes that you can do for the cars in terms of setting the cars up, pace cars, controllers, everything else. The black box was very much harder to set up for different settings for the cars, but this newer power base allows you to easily program all the different options for the cars and get them running around and count the laps as well. Scalextric, the pioneers, the inventors, some people might say, of slot cars as we know it today. Let's have a look at the Scalextric digital systems. So first we're going to have a look at the 4-car power base. Now this was released in a lot of cheaper sets. This was the introduction to digital. We had the 4-car power base and we had the 6-car power base. Now the 4-car power base was very bare bones, very minimal, and you had to add a lap counter in order to have any kind of lap counting ability, set up races, anything like that. If you didn't, all it was a digital system that allowed you to switch lanes, which to start with, for the price, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Okay. It released in 2004. It just allowed lane changing, no screen, and that was what you got. Now, this would have been perfect for people that just wanted to dip their toes in. Scalextric come in with a very competitively priced product, perfect for early adopters to test the waters, and this is something Scalextric did very, very well. In my mind, Scalextric were the pioneers. They led for such a long time on their digital systems up until recently. So let's now take a look at the 6-car power base. Released in 2004 alongside the 4-car power base, you can have 2 units. 2 of these units will boost the current, the voltage, providing a steady power supply, and that will run up to 6 cars. 1 power base will power 4 cars. You've got Grand Prix endurance and practice options, and we've got lap counting positions, and that's all handled by the LCD inbuilt screen. Now, this was in more premium releases. So they've got 2 different products, one at a lower start point, one at a higher start point, which covered all of the market for digital. Now, in my mind, this is a great set to start out with, even today, if you just want to experience digital and see if it's for you. It'll give you a limited digital experience, but it's still fun if you've got lots of people racing with you. So that's it for this power base. We can see the evolution. So this was very early on, 2004, don't forget. So then after that came the evolution in 2011, which was a big gap, 7 years between the release of this and then the release of the 6-car advanced power base, which is what we're going to look at next. And that was a big jump for Scalextric, massive jump in terms of what you could do. It's also worth mentioning that this 6-car power base did allow you to connect external RMS software with this particular base. That would further expand your digital experience. So the 6-car power base by itself didn't give a lot, but connect it to RMS software and that suddenly gave you a lot more of a powerful experience. And a lot of people, clubs adopted this and it took off. So this was big in terms of cementing digital within the industry, no doubt about it. Now, before we go any further, I just want to go over the RMS software. So RMS software refers to race management software. It basically adds a lot more functionality to the systems by digitizing the system with a graphical user interface. So when computers started getting bigger towards, the late 90s, the internet, the dial-up, 2000s, we're now at 2004, and 2006 to 2009 saw the early adoption. This is called the early era. The original version of Scalextric Sport Digital console. So this was version 1 through to version 4, and this was released for the 6-car power base that we've just discussed. And again, it was the community driving forward. The software has always been about community and the hard work that the community puts towards giving the best experience for the community. Without the community, it's important to note that the manufacturers would be stuck. Okay, that's how big the community gives back to the hobby. So this was a complete community hardware upgrade. You needed a special data cable that connected to the 6-car power base. Later on, the community basically developed a system whereby initially it was just a one-way system where the 6-car power base just basically chucked data towards the PC. Nothing was coming back. So you could get telemetry, you could get lap times. They could put all the data into a visual display for you to see, but ultimately nothing would go back towards the digital system, the power base. This was overcome with a flash upgrade. You could send your 6-car power base away to the community and someone would flash the power base with a custom firmware upgrade that will then allow two-way talking. So you could set parameters from the computer to the power base, which was, the basis of the evolution of digital. So at this point, at the end of 2009, there was a big release, and that release was what we're talking about next. It was the C7042 Advanced Power Base, the 6-car Advanced Power Base, the APB. Thanks for watching. Part 2 will be out very, very soon, where we'll have a look at that advanced 6-car power base. Till next time, take care, keep it in the slot.